Okay, today I'm going to start digging up some of my dahlias, do some fall cleanup. I'm really hesitant to dig up a lot of my really good producers that still have a lot of buds left on them. So I am going to be a little more selective what I'm going to dig up now because I'm really interested to see what the tubers look like. Some of my dahlias produced really well a few months ago, but haven't been doing that well now. Sometimes I worry about them, um, the ones that aren't really producing, since they're all on the same drip system. Maybe they're getting overwatered. Maybe the tubers are starting to rot or had already rotted. And maybe if we cut off those rotted parts, I can save the rest of the tubers. So I'm just going to kind of go through and dig up some of them, probably clean up the zinnias. I did tell my daughter that I was done caring for the garden, covering buds for her to cut from. This week was her last week to cut. Uh, and then some of these plants are getting, I don't know, you probably can't see this one, but one over here, it's getting a lot of new growth on it, a lot of new shoots. And I really don't want a lot of new growth because I want the dahlias to put all their energy into making tubers. So we're just going to start digging them up, and they were all in containers, all in 5 or 7 gallon grow bags. So we will see what they look like. So the first one I'm going to dig up is Caitlin's Joy. Now I will say storage for the winter. I'm in zone 7A. I'm in a rental home. I don't have a garage. There is a sunroom, but that sunroom can get warmer. So I'm a little, I don't know, I'm unsure of where I'm going to store things. I think I am going to try and put some in saran wrap and put them in our second refrigerator, the beer fridge, even though it mostly has water and sodas in it. And then some of them I'm going to put in vermiculite. I have a big order of vermiculite coming tomorrow. So I'm going to, if there are more than one tuber on the same plant, I might divide it to see which does better this winter. But this first one is a Caitlin's Joy. It really hasn't bloomed in a while. It's getting a lot of new growth down here at the bottom. This one was a good producer in the summer, and then yeah, you can see that the leaves got some disease on it. I did get infested while I was out of town with spider mites on a lot of the plants. I sprayed when I first came back and it seemed to keep it in control, but then because I didn't continue to spray, they started coming out again, and I just kind of let it go. I think I hit the point where I was just over caring for the dahlias. So again, this is really my personal garden, and my daughter does cut from it for her floral business. Okay, so I can tell right now the reason this one wasn't growing is it was tied up, but it was broken at the base. So that's why there's no new blooms on this one. But again, there was a lot of growth down here. Let's see what we have. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the growth, since I can't really see what the tubers look like. I'm spraying it with alcohol when I cut. Okay, so this is the tag I put around the original tuber, and these were color-coded so I could tell who I got this one. So the original mother tuber has definitely tuber rotted, which I did have a lot of rot. You know, in these grow bags, I did kind of go back and forth with how much water they were supposed to get. I do feel some healthy tubers though. It'd be easier if I just dump this on something. Okay, I dug up my first grow bag. The nice thing to know, I'd switched in September to drip tape instead of a single drip emitter because I felt like it wasn't getting enough of the soil wet and it was just kind of going straight through and straight out. So the tape definitely, the whole bottom couple of inches was all moist. The top was dry, but the bottom was moist. So I kind of dumped it out here. Here's the bad news. Classic case of leafy gall. So I was lazy. I thought I might have had gall on one or two plants that were given to me when I dug them up after the winter. It was actually before I knew there was such thing called gall, but I thought they looked a little like cauliflower-ish. And so I planted them separate. They're over here. There are no other dahlias over by where they are. And they've rarely bloomed, but I would trim my dahlias, cut from all of them, have my daughter cut from all of them, and I was not spraying my snips in between plants. And I look at the plants next to this one, so if I came, this would have been the first one that I would cut from, and then I'd work my way back. 1, 2, 3 back. I'm noticing a lot of shoots coming up from the bottom. This one had a lot of new growth at the bottom. So I think that one's going to have gall too, which is too bad because this has a lot of nice firm tubers. This one is my Caitlin Joy. I think I need to track which ones get sick to make sure I can rebuy them again. So I'm just going to dump everything. Now I heard you can wash these with some bleach water and use them again. I haven't decided if I want to take the time to do that yet, but I will put it aside so I know which ones have gall or show signs of gall. Okay. I'm not going to clean it. But it does make me want to keep all my dahlias in grow bags for another year. So if it didn't show signs of gall, like the plant right next to it, that if it develops next year, I'm not contaminating a bunch else. So this one is a peaches and cream. Okay, so this one is not showing the same signs of all that new growth from the base. This one is fairly new though, but it still came from a branch off the original stem. It doesn't look like it's a bunch of new growth coming from the tubers, so maybe this one will be better. So I did water this morning. I've turned off the water. This definitely have a lot of moisture, even though there are parts of it that are really dry. So sometimes if you put my finger in it, I would have thought it was dry and needed to be watered. But the base is a combination of being dry and having a lot of moisture. This long taproot. Okay, so this one doesn't have a lot of thick tubers. It has some thin tubers. It's got some eyes growing at the base, but they are pretty far spaced. There's one area here I'm not so sure about, but put it in a different box and just let it dry, see what happens. Actually, I'll put it back in its bag, let it dry. Okay, so I used a Rainpoint Wi-Fi timer. I had two outlet timers, and then I had three groups of drip tape going through my beds, and then I also had 3 moisture meters, one in each row, to kind of tell me the soil temperature and the moisture levels. Okay, this is another one I think might have leafy gall. It was getting some growth at the base. But only one new shoot, not like the other one. So we'll see what it looks like. Again, really dry on top. The first top half is dry. Well, this one's just dry all the way around. You can see how this can take a while. Oh, yeah, so it was really dry on top, but here's a really wet area, and I see some roots growing into the water, so they'll find the water in these grow bags. Actually, instead of throwing away this dirt, I think I'll put it in a bed that might be planting things that are not affected by gall. So I do need to, I think I'll save all the dirt. Okay, so this one looks good. My Linda's baby. It's got a few sprouts. Does not look like gall at all. Okay, so Linda's baby looks good. I've got a bunch of little tubers on it. This one was the mother tuber, still firm. These little ones are firm. We'll see some of these small ones I still see an eye on also, so I think I'll be able to get a few more from here. Yeah, it doesn't look like any sort of gall or anything, so I'm just going to put it back in here and let it dry out. But I have 50 something dahlias, so I can see how this is going to be a time-consuming process. Okay, this next one is Bishop of Canterbury. It only had one really good flush, and that was probably the end of September. It didn't really do anything the whole time. I had ordered more than one. One of them didn't, or probably rotted. I will say my worst performing dahlias that may have only bloomed once or maybe just 2 blooms were all from a big box seller, retailer. So I definitely will steer clear of them in the future. Not to say all of them are bad, but in my case, it wasn't Swan Dahlias, but it was another popular large dahlia seller, and overall just not that happy with the quality. It does look like I have some nice big tubers though. Again, I'm shocked how wet this soil is. I mean, this could easily have gone to tuber rot because it is really wet. I probably should have dug up some of these early on to see how wet it was getting in that lower inch or two, because the top were very dry, and I would use a soil meter and it would always say that it was dry. You can see here it's very dry, but here's really moist. And I'm not sure if the mitters did this. I really feel like it got really wet when I used the drip tape, because I could actually see water, the water line on a lot of these when I used the drip tape. A little worm right here. Okay, let's check out this one. Bishop of Canterbury, not a good producer, was a big clump. I planted a clump. Well, the tubers are firm, so we'll see what happens next year. It doesn't look diseased. Okay, so this one has round tubers. I see one eye on this split tuber, so I'm not sure if this split tuber will survive, but it does have an eye on it. I think this one here, it's got a long neck, but it looks like there's an eye at the top. Okay, we'll just keep it, see how it does. Okay, so this is a mystery dahlia. This is one that I think brought gall to my garden. I said I put the 2 over there, but I remember I put 2 tubers in each plant. It was a clump, and the clump broke, and I planted them both in each plant. And then one was getting so big, so I planted it itself, but I still have multiple shoots coming up here. I don't even want to pour this one out because I feel like it's going to have gall. Yeah, so this one, instead of leafy gall, it looks more like it has crown gall to me. So it's got this really hard part right here. I think that's crown gall, which is such a shame. Look how beautiful these tubers are. This one, oh, that one's rotted. But I'm pretty sure that's crown gall. So I'm putting it in the bag. Okay, this is my Frank Holmes. This one never did good either. It also was from that large retailer. Got a lot of different pieces. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, so Frank Holmes was a big clump, and I just planted the whole clump. But part of me wonders if I shouldn't have separated them a little bit, because, you know, I feel like the clump just got too clump. There's a lot of rot in here. These are just rotted tubers on top. They're like squishy and hollow. You know, you can pull them apart by the stalks. But, except for the rot, it doesn't look like any gall or anything. Okay, not doing that great, though I am digging up the dahlias that didn't look that good. So, we'll see what's happening. This is a peaches. Also didn't do very well. It bloomed a lot initially, and then it kind of stalled out. It didn't really bloom at all during the fall. And go figure, this is another one from that same big box retailer. I say big box, it's not like I bought it locally, but you know, one of the large online presence retailers. Again, all of these were planted as a large, what do you call it? A large clump. I just feel like this one had a lot of, this company, I had a lot of rot, and maybe it's just planting these clumps of tubers. I just didn't know how to take care of them. So with this clump, got a couple of tubers. We've got 3 stalks. Surprisingly, the main tuber did not rot. Looks like a secondary tuber rotted though. Okay, let me rinse these off. Okay, here's another one that was doing well until it didn't. It pretty much just rotted. The tuber rotted, and I cut it back, and then it rebloomed. But it does have multiple shoots, so let's see what it looks like. Okay, so the Cornell Bronze actually looks really good. These shoots that have come up are all coming up on their own tubers, so I feel good that this is a very healthy plant and that I'll get a lot of tubers off of this. The interesting thing, and I think it's just to note, like I put all these tags around the original tuber that I purchased, and a lot of them had the name of the tuber written on them. I'm pretty sure 5 out of 6 of the ones I've dug up so far, the original tuber has rotted away. So very important to make sure you tag your tubers and don't just rely on something written on them when they're in the ground, because it probably won't be there later on in the season. So we'll let this one dry out. And the reason I'm most excited about that Cornell Bronze is because that was a single stalk and it was blooming well, and then it started turning black from the bottom of the stalk, and the whole stalk just blew over. And so I just cut it down at the base, but instead of throwing it out or digging it up, I just left it in ground, and it started growing again, and obviously produced a lot of tubers. Here's another one, the Zunder Mystery Fox. Here's the tuber, the original tuber. So I'm not crossing my fingers that anything is growing in here, but we'll just see. We'll see if anything survives and multiply here. Okay, so that's definitely one that didn't produce anything. Okay, this was my Islander, huge thick stalk. Definitely one, I'm not sure if I pinched, but should have been pinched. Yeah, should have been pinched. Very top heavy, very large plant. The stalk is still really healthy looking. Now you may ask what I'm doing with all that dirt since I'm not separating all of it, or I'm kind of dumping before I see if any of them have gall. The one I knew had gall did not make it into that wheelbarrow, but I'm just going to put all this dirt in a raised bed that I'm using for annuals, and I don't think it's affected by leafy gall. And this bag here is not being composted. It's just easier to dump my plants and cut them in here, but it's just going in the regular trash. So I'm putting all the discarded material in there. You can see this mother tuber is humongous, but I've got quite a few other tubers. We'll see if they survive. I like this. I love the Islander. It was so beautiful and huge. It didn't give me a ton of blooms, but the blooms were so big. So I would like to get a cluster of them next year so that I could have multiple blooms at the same time. Okay, here's another peaches from that same big box realtor, a retailer. I don't think I had any from them that I would say did well. Though this one, I think, was a bad location because it was behind my Brachyceras and the larger plants shaded this plant. So this could have done better with some better sun. And I will actually say both of my peaches were not in the ideal location. I should have put them in this front row when they were struggling. We'll see what happens with this one. Okay, the main tuber rotted out. This one may survive. It may have one or two from this last little stalk over here that may survive. We'll see after we let it clean up and dry up. Not holding my breath. Okay, so I dug up, I don't know, 8 to 10 dahlias yesterday. I'm definitely going to do some more digging today. I'm going to start getting into some of the healthier tubers. This first video really kind of shows the sickly dahlias that I dug up, and you can see that a lot of them still have tuber growth. I did put the two aside that I believe have crown gall and leafy gall. I keep debating if I want to spend the money to have them tested. I'm pretty sure on the leafy gall, I'm pretty sure, I mean, they're pretty obvious. I think a lot of times I'll see pictures on Facebook and everyone's saying, oh, it's gall, it's gall, it's gall. And I know not all of it is gall. I've seen pictures of people that posted photos that they said were gall and then they had them tested and they were not gall. However, I think mine are pretty picture perfect gall. So I might not spend the money to have them tested, but if somebody sends back, oh, or puts in the comments, oh, you should test this one, you should, pull this one, yeah, I might spend the money just to see, if people are throwing away unnecessarily a lot of tubers because they are expensive. Anyways, I am going to be putting them back in this rental. It has a garden room. It does get warm because it's all glass, but it's also the coolest place in the winter because it's outside, but not being outside. There's no garage in this rental home. So I will be storing them in the garden room and then some in the refrigerator or extra refrigerator and just see how it goes. They're storing really well right now in the grow bags in the front of the house. They're not drying out. They still aren't quite, some of them don't feel really dry to touch. But I think, it's the morning and there might have been some dew or things that are making them feel a little moister, but none of them feel squishy or anything like that. So I do have a 40-pound bag of vermiculite coming today, and I have some plastic containers that I'll put them in. I wanted to get some bleach and make sure that I spray everything out with bleach water, and that's what I am going to be doing today.